All right, gentlemen, today we will be familiarizing ourselves with the APC300 SD, the Advanced Police Carbine. This will be your primary weapon as an enforcer of the HOA. What are you doing, man? Hey, I saw your grass in front of your yard. Way too long. What are you thinking, man? This is one of the most dangerous jobs in law enforcement. Rest assured, gentlemen, at this agency, it's not a matter of if you'll get into a shooting, but when. See, at HOA enforcement, we really try and give people a break when we can. You know, sometimes you gotta do a little community HOAing. John, I told you to cut your grass! Your biggest threat is the middle-aged Karen. She is violent. She is hostile. She is ready and waiting. She is training every day to take you on. Dispatch, show John handled. Are you prepared? Are you willing and ready? And do you have what it takes? That's a hard question you gotta ask yourself, gentlemen. And if you don't, there's the door. Get back! HOA enforcement!
My whistle!
This is an aggressive offender!
What do you have to say to the people that call you guys the modern day Gestapo?
Anybody enforcing the rules is often seen as the modern day Gestapo. And to that I say, those people lack accountability. They lack the rules of a civilized society. And to them, maybe they need the modern day Gestapo more than the rest. Yeah, I'm thinking we're going over the APC300 SD. Gentlemen, welcome back to Administrative Results. YouTube moderator, I know you're watching and listening. This is a completely legally semi-automatic firearm with YouTube compliant magazines. Thank you for your attention on this matter. My trigger finger is just that fast. Legally, that was semi-automatic. Backstory on how this video came about. I was filming with Eric of EVT. We were going over the B&T options for those FRTs. Wow, that was a lot of acronyms I threw at you. I apologize and hopefully the video pays off and you don't click off right now. But as we were out there filming, he had a whole lineup of B&T products. Now keep in mind, I've never been a huge B&T guy. I know of the brand, I know of the company, I know of the guns. I'm just never felt drawn to them. Well, there was one gun out there in particular that Eric had in his arsenal to demonstrate to you guys, and that was the 300 Blackout with the SD rail, the APC. And I quickly became enamored with it.
I think out of all of the B&Ts Eric brought today, this 300 Blackout SD is becoming my quick favorite.
I shot it, shooting it with his FRT in there, and I was like, dang, this thing's pretty sick, I want to get my own. So I got my own, and that's what we got going on right here, and it has the EVT FRT conversion in there, which makes this gun even that much cooler. Now, I was never a big B&T guy, like I said. You know, I try and stay aloof when it comes to like things that I like too much and keep it professional, right? Not get my emotions tied up into it too much. Well, we kind of threw that one out the window for this one because dang do I like this gun a lot. And I did not think I would be saying that about the B&T lineup. Not that I don't think they're good guns. I think they're absolutely well-built guns. The problem is, yet again, I just never felt this gravitational pull to that series of firearms. Shooting this thing, and this is like probably the second time I've shot one so far in the video. Shooting this thing, I quickly found out that I was like, dang, I like this thing a lot. The recoil impulse, the sound signature of the 300 Blackout subs, handles really well. There's some things so far that I'm critical of that we'll get to later, but I am actually like, all right, I like this thing a lot. This is growing on me.
We're gonna have to check each other for ticks later.
What are you talking about ticks, dude? Why do you keep talking about ticks? I think I'm all clear here, Colton.
We'll get in the shower when we leave.
Hi guys, Future Past Admin here. Listen, I know we're talking about the APC300 SD, but after we filmed the video, all of the B&T drama dropped.
B&T controversy. What's been going on? We've been filming this video for a bit, right? When we started the video, there was no B&T controversy. When we're publishing this video, the B&T controversy has dropped and is probably already old news. The machines at Administrative Results are moving slowly. Skinny on the sitch, if you're totally unaware, B&T USA was not making payments to B&T Swiss
and therefore there's some legal battle going on there. The concern to us, the end consumer, the concern to us is aftermarket support. From talking to guys in the industry, they're saying that it's not going to be an issue. If you have a B&T gun, you'll still get service on that gun. That's pretty much it. That's the whole gist of it. As a 300 blackout enjoyer, I've spent much time and thought on what could be the best platform for slinging 30 cal projectiles quietly and or not quietly downrange. A whole lineup of guns going down this rabbit hole, and there's still so much more to discover, but I think so far with this video, with the APC300 SD, we have found a very good heavyweight contender in the 300 blackout market. Now, to understand the B&T APC300 SD, we have to understand the company a little bit more. And the company and its owner, Karl Brugger, are out of Switzerland. Now, to understand the Swiss, man, so much lore. It's like a Dan Carlin hardcore history episode. The Swiss are very interesting people. They were renowned for their craftsmanship. I wear a Swiss watch a lot. I like a lot of Swiss products. I like a lot of Swiss guns. The Swiss for many years have been a neutral country, but that hasn't stopped them from making absolutely standout small arms technology. I love me some Swiss guns, my man. One of my favorites being the STG-W57 or the PE-10, whatever you want to call it. If you're not familiar, it looks like an 11-year-old drew it, but it's actually a very fine battle rifle. It's almost like an over-engineered HKG-3. Well, we fast forward, we get to Thun, Switzerland, where we have the B&T headquarters manned by Karl Brugger. Now, there was another partner involved where we get the name Tomet from. So you have the name Brugger and Tomet. But Karl would buy out that partner. And there's a lot of mystery surrounding that other partner at B&T. It's almost worth it for another video, but the lore is insane. But to keep on track, B&T originally started as a silencer manufacturer, and they're making some really good products. They would eventually evolve and get more technology in terms of small arms developed. Chances are you've seen a lot of B&T products out in the wild. In more recent years, B&T subguns were picked up by the US Army for PSD work, and it was a big deal. Gun companies really do strive for military contracts, and when that does happen, it's not just a big source of revenue for that company, but is a big validator to that company. As a civilian consumer, when you're looking to spend your own money, you're trying to gauge things if you have a brain. You're trying to gauge things like, okay, who's using this gun? You know, who are the people out there putting it through the rigor? And will it be a good purchase for will I get my money's worth out of it? And when we look at the military contracts, and you can see these guys are getting paid to carry guns, they're also, getting a lot of ammo provided to them in the testing process to make sure the gun can hold up to snuff when they're out using it. And so then you can use your brain and say, okay, well, if that gun is holding up during the trial periods, clearly there's something to it. And then you can kind of build off of that. So you can start your investment journey that way. That's why it's kind of important. Now, a funny thing about the gun in the video particularly that we're going over is the name itself, the APC, Advanced Police Carbine.
I'm a little embarrassed that it took me this long to realize the naming of the acronym behind the gun. Like, it's crazy to think about because when companies are designing weapons, they're really chasing down like a military contract most of the time. So it's interesting to see one when they specifically target the law enforcement demographic. Sure, absolutely military units could use the APC lineup, but the fact that they call it like an advanced police carbine, I find just absolutely fascinating. Like the thought train behind it. Because like typically in the United States, objectively speaking, so much of what law enforcement will do is kind of take tidbits from the military of what guys learn in the military, in overseas operations, and then they may try and apply that to a law enforcement setting. And it may not always transfer over, because in a law enforcement setting here in America, you're not gonna have like an embedded PKM bunker inside a house until it happens. The crazy thing about American policing, from everything I've seen, is it's just such a unlimited chaos simulator given the mass amount of people we have here and all the circumstances of our society. It's just crazy to see like a dedicated, all right, this is what we're calling it, the police carbine. It's weird, I don't know. All right, so by this point in the video, you should know that the gun is chambered in 300 blackout. Now, I personally have become a rather large fan of it. It's a very versatile cartridge with having supers and subsonic, very quiet, low signature ammunition, and it's still being a 30 caliber projectile. A cool factoid about the 300 blackout is part of its design and inception was meant to take on the 9mm platform and give guys that use the 300 blackout more oomph behind that projectile than say a 9mm. For instance, if you're using a heavy 9mm, it's 147 grains. If you're using a subsonic 300 blackout, it's 220 grains.
Hey Colton, you want to eat this month?
Yes. Onyx Off-Road.
Are you about to go on a really cool trip? Then Onyx Off-Road can help you out with their route building technology. A really cool thing about Onyx Off-Road is they can tell you where and where you won't have cell service. That's actually pretty sick, dude. And with their Elite membership, you can get more Onyx Off-Road with an Elite account. Here you can access private land information, recent imagery, which is refreshed every 2 weeks in the United States so that you can plan the next adventure. And of course, one of my favorite features, the folder sharing. You can hit the trail with your friends and send routes or key waypoints to your buddies so that no one is left behind. There's a link in the description down below. Gentlemen, this video is sponsored by Americana Pipe Dream Apparel. Why would you care about these guys? Well, fashion is important. Chances are you think about it or you don't. But it can help you find a nice, beautiful girl that you can start a family with. Looking good's half the battle. Being rich and tall is the other half. They can't help you out there. Americana Pipe Dream makes American-made clothing, which is really hard to pull off and expensive. They are getting it done though, offering some really unique pieces. They don't just have that, they have night vision knives, manuals, and e-bikes. You can terrorize your HOA. Code ABBY and get you 10% off. We also have to thank Optics Planet, the optics sponsor of Administrative Results. For all of your optics needs, they exist. And of course, the ammo sponsor of the channel, Badlands Munitions. We absolutely used a bunch of 300 blackout to go through this video, and Badlands Munitions made it happen for us. I appreciate those guys very much. 9mm 5.56 300 blackout, 7.62x51, and they're always cooking up very fun stuff over there. And I appreciate them with my whole heart.
Now, it's not necessarily a totally unique thing for firearms manufacturers to market their products as a more law enforcement orientated tool. It does happen. It's a thing that's been going on for a bit. And one such of those products, yet again, being the gun we're going over. And it's really interesting to think about this particular firearms in use with more law enforcement orientated entities. One really interesting case I came across was actually the Vatican Swiss Guard using B&T APCs. I believe those ones I saw were chambered in 223, but it's still interesting nonetheless. It feels like with most law enforcement agencies that I have experienced with and or have seen, the general round they use for their carbines would be 5.56. I have heard of agencies using 300 blackout. I think even Scottsdale PD out here in Arizona were using 300 blackouts for a bit, but a common complaint I heard from those officers were the guns were rather heavy given the job they were doing. When I was thinking about it, I was like, well, it's kind of weird because in a law enforcement role, a weapon's weight isn't that bad. In some terms, it's not like you're carrying it for miles on end to an objective that you're gonna, attack a village and raid it like in a militaristic setting. Where that weight starts to stack up is in a more law enforcement setting of just holding a building at gunpoint pretty much. There's an armed suspect in there, you're trying to figure out what's going on and or you're just gonna contain this problem until you problem solve it. But what's going on is you may be holding that gun unsupported, minutes are gonna turn into hours and you're gonna start to get pretty uncomfortable, but you still have to maintain a level of security on that building. So that's where I can see the weight issue coming into play. If I recall correctly, I believe Scottsdale PD were using 300 blackout MCXs.
Gentlemen, let me make one thing clear. At HOA law enforcement, you are not accountable for every round. The homeowner is. Sir, pick up the rake! I think what you people don't realize is that we are the thin line between order and chaos. Could you imagine a neighborhood with no rules? Trash cans left strewn about, paint colors of all kinds on houses. That's chaos. That is lawlessness, and that is something that we do not abide by here at HOA enforcement.
Now, in terms of price, for the money you're gonna spend, it is going to be on the higher end for this whole setup. It's not gonna be cheap, but what you will get, in my opinion, is actually quality. There's an interesting dilemma when making YouTube videos revolving around firearms. A problem one can run into is that if you like a product too much, you'll be labeled a shill. You'll be compromised by big gun industry. Now that absolutely could be the case. But there also are times when I'm going over a firearm for YouTube and I'm like, yo, this thing is pretty sick. And at this point in the game, I'm really trying to make videos around guns that I think are already pretty cool and then trying to see what's really going on there and reporting back to you guys. And my goodness, did I enjoy shooting this gun while filming this. The gun is probably now one of my favorite 300 blackouts that I own. It is expensive, yes. Swiss things are expensive. The recoil impulse with that hydraulic buffer system is buttery smooth and the sound signature is very quiet. I mean, of course, we were running subs. Very quiet.
I didn't think I was gonna like this thing this much. Insanely quiet. Usually by this point in the game, I am a stickler for ear pro, even when go shooting suppressed. Did like a test shot cold with this thing, and I was like, dude, with subs, noticing zero, like any sort of pain with it whatsoever. Maybe I'm just that cooked, but I'm actually impressed in that sense. Headshot.
The gun is a short stroke gas piston system, and when the bolt's recoiling, it engages that hydraulic buffer. Now the gun was also exceptionally pretty quiet, and I think the hydraulic buffer in a weird way could play a hand in that, but of course the can is a big part that goes into this. And when I was picking my gun up, the guys at AVT were like, yo, that's the Printex 300. That's B&T's, one of their newer printed cans. It's pretty slick. So it's kind of cool to see that tie into this. We're seeing a new piece of silencer tech coming out of B&T that we're throwing onto this gun as well. An issue is kind of with the name in some ways. Like when we think of SD, you think of MP5 SD, right? The MP5 SD has that big old can that goes over the barrel, and it's like that truly integrated silencer because the barrels have little holes in them that bleed off gas, thus making anything that you put through it very quiet, right? So you could run like 115 grains through a MP5 SD and they'll still come out subsonic. With this, the silencer just goes right there, right? There's really not much rail tucking taking place at all. And there's sure as hell ain't no SD style, integrated silencer where the gas is bleeding off into the can. But I can still see the desire to kind of give it that name. I mean, I guess the Swiss are close to Germany, so they can name it that if they want.
As you guys know, I've become a massive simp for suppressor tuck rails on firearms. Love it on my MCXs, love it on my MP5s, love it on any gun that it is feasible to do it on. Now, there's the aesthetics reason behind it. You're probably thinking, hey dude, function over form. You're wrong. You can't have both. It'll come at a cost, but you can have both. And suppressor tuck rails are exactly that. They are both the pairing of function and form to bring about a magnificent aesthetic. And what's the point of having guns if they don't look cool? This is my first B&T firearm in the collection.
Wrong.
Cool thing I learned is that with this SD rail, kind of reminds me of like the Q-Cert, potentially other rails out there. It's not necessarily like groundbreaking technology, but it's, I guess, B&T's own version of it where you can screw Picatinny directly into the rail. I was looking at the screws and I was looking at the Picatinny and it was kind of an anemic setup, so they're not on there right now. I was like, all right, I have the idea of how I want to set this up. I don't think I'll need these Picatinny slots for it just yet. Then again, you may get restless rifle syndrome and swap things around a bunch. They're off the gun right now, and I was not necessarily impressed by the robust nature of those pieces.
Dude, why are you measuring my turf?
It's too short.
Now, a really cool feature about the gun, in my opinion, especially being someone that likes 300 blackout guns that have suppressor tuck rails, is the ease of getting the suppressor tuck rail off, especially when it has good retention. On the upper receiver, you can see that there's these little clamps here, and those clamps work with the gun to give it a good retention. So if you have something like a laser, like this EOTech laser up here mounted, it can help retain that zero. But with certain guns, like say on my MCX with the Virtus rail, I have to use like an Arasaka clamp in there and torque it down with a hex key to make sure it's retained rather tight. With this system, you can literally just hit two of those latches and then just pull the thing off once the can's off the gun, and it makes it easier just to get access to the rest of the gun for cleaning purposes and or other conveniences. This feature I like a lot. That's actually really cool. The question is it idiot proof? Nothing ever is. And of course the rail tucks into where the retaining pin will go for the lower. Yeah, I like that rail a lot. I think it's a very well designed rail with how it latches on. Okay, B&T, I see you. I didn't know your game. If you're really creative, you just run your wiring to your weapon light through it. If you're feeling spicy. And then of course what's cool on the gun is the option for replacing parts on the upper receiver that are gonna be subject to wear and tear. Like you'll see the hex screws on this and it's like obvious, like, okay, after prolonged use, the goal is to replace these parts and thus ensure a longer life of the service weapon so you can get more bang from your buck as terms of investment. Now an important component to this whole setup, and it's very dirty, is this trip bar for the FRT inside of the gun. Interfacing with your bolt, It'll help engage the trip, that way you can get that legal forced reset. And then arguably really a massively cool feature about this video, right? I was excited to go over the APC300 SD, and a big reason why is that there are the force reset triggers, particularly coming out of my backyard here in Arizona from Eric over at EVT, and the fact is that they're also covered by warranty. It's a very pricey process. But given the door that they open with the legality that they have, it's pretty sick. Cool thing they do is like the clone markings on the lower, so you have your safe, semi, and we flicker on over, and we have FRT mode. It's pretty dang dope. And you can see the aspect of the FRT back here. From there, you can kind of see the trip bar engaging in the gun. And then of course, when you assemble everything, you just gotta make sure your latch in there is lined up with the FRT, and maybe you have to do the tango of the reassembly. A weird issue that I had with the gun upon initially shooting with it, even zeroing, I was putting weight on the magazine. Now this could be a problem with certain guns, and it was a problem with this one. It's maybe a bad habit that I need to break. But when zeroing, I was using the magazine as a third position of contact for stabilization, and I had this weird issue where the gun would cycle the next round, but the hammer would not reset, and we were shooting in semi-automatic, so I'd just have a dead trigger. There would be a live round in the gun, but there would be no click, there would be no bang, and that was a problem. So then I'd have to take the mag out, either extract that round and then chamber a new round, and then you're back off to the races. It happened actually a few times with the weight applied to the magazine. Another weird issue, kind of on and off, is the stiffer bolt release. Like I was noticing on some times I'm trying to drop that bolt, like it almost took me going to the other side and dropping it. So I'd use my index finger and then my thumb to really gain leverage on it, and it felt like a very stiff bolt release. Part of me worries is that adding the system of the FRT stuff inside there, that it could be playing a part in it. I don't know. I would assume it'd be more buttery smooth, but those are issues that I encountered.
One thing I was noticing that's actually pretty impressive about the gun is, it was a criticism that I had, would be the rail. The SD rail is pretty fat, at least in my perceived idea, it feels rather girthy. And when using it, I was noticing that it actually maybe helps keep a lot of that heat away from your hand. Another thing too, to probably play into that, is that there's such little amount of suppressor tucked into the rail, is that could be helping with the heat transfer into the rail. Compared to guns like my MCX Rattler and 5.56 with the FRT and you're doing mag dumps, you quickly realize how hot that gun gets. And that's a shorter barrel than this one. So I think that is absolutely playing into some of that heat transfer. And the cyclic rate on this with that FRT is not as aggressive as, say, that MCX Rattler. This thing really does chug along like an MP40 is what it feels like. Just chamber in 300 blackout.
As far as pop culture goes, the APC300 SD pretty much is non-existent at the moment. There have been a number of APCs showing up in shows and or video games, one particular video game being Modern Warfare 2, the latest one, not the one I grew up playing, saying the most obscene things in the chat lobby, no, the one where they would ban you for that stuff now.
I call it the N-word.
It was also showing up in the SWAT show, though I never really watched those. I believe it was being used by some generic cartel goon enforcers. It's kind of a bummer given the fact that it's like being used by like the Swiss Guard. Look what they've done to my boy. Now granted, the APC300 SD is a rather new addition to the market from B&T, coming out in 2024. So it's not gonna have as much recent time, like people really had to jump on it to get it into more pop culture. And there is maybe some hard sells about it with its black silhouette and then its more flat style upper receiver. Now at least with the SD version, there is much more of a sex appeal to the eye of the beholder than I would say normally. Like normally B&T guns, they look very blocky in the silhouette. Really, I think the SD rail adds a good contrast. Maybe that's what I'm putting it together. It's like the contrast of like how blocky that upper is, and then you pair a more curved SD style rail to go along with it, and then you kind of have this really fun contrast. When it comes to the shooting experience, in terms of 300 blackout, this is very nice. Insanely quiet, insanely good recoil control, and of course, if you pair it with that FRT, you're gonna have a very good time. Trust me. Like the FRT is really maybe just putting the gun industry on life support right now during their big old Trump slump. I guess that and silencers, like the silencer renaissance happening right now. I wouldn't say renaissance. The silencer gold rush is like happening right now. So like FRTs and just a wide amount of silencers hitting the market is insane. Insanely cool. Now the big question at hand, is this like now the new king of the 300 blackout Death Trooper guns, right? And of course, I've talked about the Death Trooper guns ad nauseum by now, but it's the idea of like the high-end cool guy operator running around with a 300 blackout silence setup. And it entails that they are extremely capable of violence and doing it quietly. Right now it's hard to say, right? APCs have been used by government entities around the world so far. A big problem is who they're being used by. Sure, they could be being used by very proficient agencies, but there are a few organizations that really stand out. At least in America, if you're not being run by like Green Berets, Navy SEALs, Delta Force, you're kind of missing out. Of course, all the other high-speed cool guys, that's when things become like, oh, now we're getting performance and the resume to back it up. I will say, if you take that out of the equation, the gun is very good so far at what it's doing. So the B&T APC300 SD is a contract gun, spawned in the LE Special Police contract stage. A cool thing that I just learned about B&T is that they actually take those contract guns and make them available to the civilian market. From what I'm hearing from the inside, there are quite a number of APC300s in the southern United States. The original can was machine welded steel aluminum. The updated is a printed titanium specifically tailored for the APC300 SD, like the original legacy model. So I used to be in law enforcement, but I try not to talk about it too much now because I've been out longer than I was in. I've been doing YouTube longer now than I was an actual police officer. But I can still think back and recall certain things. The idea of being issued that thing would be bananas. I would probably be over the moon. It'd be like giving an 18-year-old a Ferrari, just like, you don't know what you're doing, kid. You got a sick piece of gear here. But if I got that, it would be legit. The reason I say that is that most cops, what are they? They're government employees. Most government employees aren't that good with firearms to begin with. So the gun itself, therefore, feels like a tool for a very advanced, prestigious law enforcement entity. That's where it kind of sits in my mind. This isn't like a gun you'd give to some sloppy beat cop that's out of shape, can't run, not proficient with their weapon, is an embarrassment to his uniform. This is what you give the guy that's doing law enforcement as a hobby because he wanted a chill job. Oh, his last job? He was jumping out of planes into the Middle East. He spent 20 years in a high-speed unit, and his wife wanted him to settle down, so he picked up a job at the local SWAT team. And now he wants the latest and greatest gear. Oh, hold on, B&T's on the phone. That's what it feels like. Yet again, I gotta be honest, right? Before this video, I wasn't really too enticed by B&T. But that's a cool thing about making YouTube videos, is that you kind of like get a hint of something interesting and you're like, oh, that's intriguing. And then I start learning about stuff. I start diving into topics, getting your hands on and trying the stuff out, and you're like, okay, this is what I've been missing out on. The gun's sick, man. I don't care. The gun is freaking dope. Like, it lives up to whatever hype was around it. Like, I like this thing. It's probably my new favorite 300 blackout. But in general, that's the fun of making these videos, is I can discover this and say, okay, where does this all fall into place? And the fun thing is I get to report it back to you guys, so then you can say, maybe I will check this thing out, or maybe I'll play with this notion over here. And it's just fun. And I enjoy what I get to do. And that's mainly thanks to you guys for watching. I got nothing else. Godspeed.